A huge part of being a gentleman is how you conduct yourself in social situations and in conversation. To be a good conversationalist, you need to ask questions. However, there are certain types of questions that a gentleman would never ask. These are questions that might be interpreted as invasive, impolite, or just downright rude. In this video, I'm going to tell you what those questions are, a polite alternative, and how to handle these questions if somebody asks you them. Hello, my name is James, and I am on a mission to create a generation of gentlemen. So let's get into the first question a gentleman would never ask. How much money do you make? In most cultures, it is seen as rude to ask direct questions about people's personal finances. In the US, there is a little less of a taboo about this compared to Europe, but still, to ask somebody how much money they make is very gauche and should always be avoided. If somebody doesn't make a lot of money, they might feel embarrassed to tell you. And if they do make a lot of money, then they might not want to seem show-offish, or they might not want to tell you for security reasons. Either way, it's simply none of your business how much money somebody makes. Of course, it's natural to be curious. I think we all make assumptions based on people's appearances, their job, and their lifestyle. However, it's much better to ask a question such as, what do you do for a living? Or what motivates you with your work? That opens up the conversation, and it gives them the opportunity, if they really wanted, to tell you about their personal financial situation. For example, if somebody works in a high-ticket sales job and you ask them what motivates them, they might very well tell you the salary. Now, if somebody asks you the question of how much money do you make, the most classy and simple answer you can give is to simply say, I prefer not to talk about money. Hey, do you like my new car? Another question a gentleman never asks is, what do you think of my insert expensive purchase here? When you ask these kind of questions, it just screams of insecurity. It reeks of desperation. Nothing says fishing for a compliment like asking somebody what they think of your obviously expensive, flashy purchase. If somebody wants to pay you a compliment, they will. Everybody has noticed your Lamborghini. Everybody has noticed your Rolex. There is no need to point it out. If you genuinely want somebody's opinion on something, then I suggest you frame the question more asking if something is suitable. For example, do you think this watch goes with this outfit? Do you prefer this tie or a different one? That way, you're not fishing for a compliment. You're showing them that you genuinely care about their opinion. Anytime somebody asks me what I think of their car, their watch, etc., I always say the same thing, which is, oh, it's very nice. Which they can't get offended by because I've actually complimented them, but I also don't give them the satisfaction of getting the big, gushing compliments they were looking for. And what does your father do? It might surprise you that I've included this one on the list because it is a question that you very commonly hear even in upper-class social circles, particularly in the northeast of the US and in the UK. However, to ask somebody what their father does for a living or did for a living is an incredibly elitist and outdated conversation topic. A modern gentleman would never judge a man based on the class or profession of his family. Of course, as you get to know somebody a little better, it's more than okay to ask somebody what their father does or what their father did. However, I commonly hear this question asked as one of the opening questions when people meet somebody new, especially, as I said, in a more upper-class British social circle. I recommend that you instead ask a question about what they do for a living, and you can even say what inspired you to take up that profession. If the man you are talking to is a lawyer, he may very well have been inspired to become a lawyer by his father. Or you can say, did your family do a similar line of work? Because remember, it's also very outdated to assume that only one parent in their family was a professional person. So, what should you do if somebody asks you, what does your father do? I think you should always answer this question honestly, even if it's not really any of their business. Because if somebody does decide to judge you based on your answer, then just be grateful that you will not have the misfortune of developing a closer acquaintance with them. Are you pregnant? Gentlemen, never ask a lady if she is pregnant. The risks of her getting offended if she's actually just carrying a little weight or she's bloated are far too great. It's really none of your business whether or not a lady is carrying a child, and when she's ready to tell you, to tell her social circle, she will. Do not pressure her or do not make her feel like she has to announce this before she is ready to. If you see a lady with what you believe to be a baby bump, of course it's natural to be curious, but it's really best not to comment at all. Why don't you have kids yet? It's perfectly fine to take an interest in the family plans of your friends and other people in your social circle. However, be very careful when you ask this question, not to take an accusatory tone. When you say, "Why don't you have kids yet?" you're assuming that both A, they want to have children, and that B, they can have children. These days, many couples experience fertility issues, or they may have had a miscarriage, and it's best not to remind them of either of these upsetting incidences. Or they may have not actually agreed on their family plans as a couple that could actually be a source of argument and contention in their marriage. It's much better to ask this type of question in a more open way, such as, do you have any plans to start a family? That way, you're not framing the question in a way that suggests either yes or no is the right answer. If somebody asks you about your family plans and you don't feel ready to share it, it's perfectly fine to say, "We're still figuring that one out." Don't feel pressured to reveal anything, especially if you haven't already discussed it and agreed upon it with your spouse. Well, this is by no means an exhaustive list of the questions a gentleman should never ask. So I want you to help each other out now by going to the comments and sharing one question that you believe a gentleman should never ask. I very much look forward to reading your responses. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.